Welcome to the Chargers Central podcast. We have a lot to talk about from the week one loss to the Dolphins and week two preview for the Titans Chargers game. So I'll have Jason start it off.
All right. Well, I was at the game. It was a tough game to be at. Completely different from last year. Our defense was awesome last year. This time they tore us up, especially in the air. Tyreek Hill, man, we could not stop him. It looked like we tried single coverage too much, and we just kept getting burned over and over again. Our offense looked great. We were able to run the ball better than I've seen from the Chargers in maybe forever. It was just a tough loss, man. So many Dolphins fans there. It was not fun to lose that game.
Yeah, no, I know. They've been in my comments and mentions and everything on Twitter. So it was, I think after all this hype, right, during the offseason, we were promised, a championship team. You got guys like Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, these big names who were very quiet in week one. Joey Bosa especially was very disappointing from the very beginning, the flag that was called on him. And Khalil Mack was quiet. Sebastian Joseph Day, who I thought could have a big season, he was very quiet. There was a play they kept showing, I think it was Tua to Tyreek, and it's when Bosa got called for the face mask on the offensive lineman. And it's like Sebastian Joseph Day gave up on that play before the call or anything. So it was discouraging watching that defense. And then J.C. Jackson, just horrible performance by him. I get that the defensive coordinator, whoever it was, Brandon Staley, whoever, put him in a bad situation, right? Coming back from that injury and then having to guard Tyreek Hill man to man, you're asking for trouble. The play where Tyreek beat J.C. Jackson for the touchdown, I think that ended the game for us. It was just a straight man-to-man coverage. Tyreek he outdid J.C. Jackson in every way in week one. It was very disappointing. Quick turnaround. You got to face DeAndre Hopkins now. So he could make up for it. But like you said, the run game was very strong. I was very impressed by Eckler and Joshua Kelly. And, people are saying Tua outplayed Justin Herbert. Sure. Okay. But we also had 200-plus yards running. And Justin Herbert didn't have Tyreek Hill. So, Tua played well. But Tyreek, he just is a Chargers killer. Like I said last week, I always fear that he's just going to go off against the Chargers. And it happened. But half those yards that Tua had were from Tyreek. So I wouldn't get too excited if I were Dolphins fans. He's still not better than Herbert. He's tier two, just not in the tier of Justin Herbert. So those are my thoughts.
I felt like Herbert didn't get enough passes to really get into a rhythm. He felt, it felt like he was a little rusty too.
It's understandable. He didn't play in the preseason, so all the quarterbacks that didn't play in the preseason were rusty. Like Josh Allen didn't play well at all. Lamar Jackson didn't play well. Jared Goff last week didn't play well to start the game. I think one thing that needs to be said is the offensive line was incredible for the Chargers. It was good to see Rashawn Slater back out there. They created a lot of space for the running backs. It's unfortunate, of course, the ending of the game where they just kept blitzing and sacking Herbert. It was very frustrating to watch because they still had a chance to win with a field goal. And maybe if they did kick that field goal and win, this would have been a completely different conversation that we're having throughout the Chargers community. But, I want to get your thoughts, too, on this. Do you think that Brandon Staley should be on the hot seat?
I think he should be. I don't want to fire him straight after this game, but I think we need to see what's going to happen this season. I mean, you need to at least make the playoffs, make a strong showing. But yeah, if his defense is just going to keep getting burned like this, we can't keep him around. You know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, last year after that Jacksonville loss, I was like, yeah, this guy has to go. It was that frustrating to watch that, comeback win from Jacksonville. I didn't think he was gonna stay as a coach. I thought he was gone, but he survived. I think now, if they somehow manage to lose against the Titans, then he's gonna be on a week to week basis evaluated, I think, by the team, because we'll go into more of the preview later, but Tennessee should have no business being in, even close to the Chargers. So if they can't win week 2, I think he should be on the hot seat. I think it should be a week to week evaluation, because it gets to a point where you have a Super Bowl roster and you have to put up points on the board for you to keep your job, right?
Yeah.
And yesterday, Austin Eckler kind of blamed the coaching. He said coaching and players. And I had tweeted about that and got a lot of interaction. And a lot of the comments were that, Eckler's correct, that we need to hear more players come out against the coaches, because that's the only way that this is going to improve. And you had a couple of people, saying Eckler's wrong or whatever, but that's fine. I mean, the majority were saying Eckler is correct. And, Joey Bosa, for example, I think his days are numbered in the Chargers uniform. Whether it's in the offseason he's gone or during the season he's gone, I'm not sure. But I think, the 49ers will be interested in Bosa to just, team up with his brother. But I don't know. Do you think that Bosa will be traded before this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, if he keeps playing like he did against the Dolphins, when you think about it's been a long time since we've seen a dominant performance out of Joey Bosa. You know, he was injured most of last year. He didn't do much then. He went through a stretch in his career where it seemed like he was getting a lot of concussions before that, and he just hasn't been productive in what seems like a long time. Uh, so yeah, he's on the hot seat too. And when you mentioned Staley, you know, it's so strange when you talk about game plans. He had the perfect game plan last year against the Dolphins, and it worked to perfection. And he it seemed like he totally switched it up, went a different direction. Um, I think he overthought it. He probably thought, you know, they're going to be ready for us to do the same thing. I have to switch it up, and he didn't need to. He didn't need
Mm-hmm.
to. And we needed to double Tyreek. We didn't do that. Yeah, and you mentioned J.C. Jackson, two boneheaded plays from a veteran. You know, that pass interference call that led to a field goal,
Yeah.
which, you know, we lose by 2 points. That could be the difference. And then he gets the interception in the end zone. He takes it out to the 4 yard line. You know, he should have just taken a knee.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I don't understand that. Like, just take the knee, and
yeah,
we start at 20. Why are you
yeah.
getting out of there? And
And
then the penalty at the end of the half, that was just, I didn't have the words for it at the moment, because it was just so stupid to play.
yeah,
Uh, it's a Hail Mary heave. Like, it's not like, even if he catches it, the time's done. That's it. The half is over.
yeah,
And
and
they would have been a tie, I think, 14-14, right?
yeah, and
So, yeah, I mean, that could have cost them as well. There were a lot of boneheaded plays by the defense. And going back to Bosa, yeah, you're right. When was the last time that Bosa had a big game, right? And no Teron Armstead for the Dolphins. So you thought that, Khalil Mack, Bosa, even Sebastian Joseph Day were going to get in and sack Tua a couple of times. We had fans saying they were going to get 2 sacks each, this and that. None of it happened.
yeah,
So my question is, like, if it's a better offensive line, or Teron Armstead was healthy, what would that have looked like? The Chargers D line. It's just it was a weird performance. Maybe it's just the first game of the season, and that's why we should cut them some slack. I don't know, but I just know that week 2 They need to flip the script, and the defense has to show up. Um, and I had tweeted yesterday about Derwin James saying that wait until Sunday to see what the secondary is going to do for the Chargers. Okay, we'll see, but at the same time, you could have given a better answer than that. You know, I think what needs to happen is Sunday they gotta first of all they gotta slow down Derrick Henry. I think that's the biggest thing. I know he's getting older, but he's still as dominant as he was before. Um, and you have to make Ryan Tannehill beat you. Make him beat you. Make him throw the ball. You had DeAndre Hopkins, I get it. Okonkwo, he's a stud, and Treylon Burks, he's questionable, but he's good. Um, I think the defense still has their work cut out for them. Tannehill is not a great quarterback, and he struggled mightily against New Orleans. But you saw Derek Carr throw for over 300 yards last week. I believe Rashid Shaheed, who's the wide receiver 3 for the Saints, had nearly 90 yards. Michael Thomas, first game back from injury, had over 60 yards. And then Chris Olave had over 100 yards receiving. So the Chargers receiving core needs to step up, whether it's Mike Williams, whether it's Joshua Palmer. We know what we're going to get out of Keenan Allen every week. Quentin Johnston should be in the action more because if Eckler's out, the run game is not going to be as great as it was week 1. Besides that, though, the Titans' run defense is very good. And they had shut down Jamal Williams week 1. I believe he averaged 2.5 yards per carry from 18 carries that Williams had. I think it was 2.5 per carry. So that tells me that the Titans' run defense is very strong. Even when Joshua Kelly as running back 1, regardless whether he's running back 1, Eckler plays, doesn't matter. They have to throw the ball. I think Mike Vrabel, he's a great coach, and it might be a low-scoring game, but like what the Saints did last week, Carr found Chris Olave open up 100 times, and Mike Thomas had a lot of contested catches. Rashid Shaheed, he went ballistic, over 80 yards. I think it was 89 yards, something like that. And that's a wide receiver 3. So that tells me that there's room to exploit that defense. And that's what I want to see in week 2 from the Chargers. But what are your thoughts on the week 2 matchup?
Yeah, I think some people underestimated the Titans. Well, we were talking about the Saints here. The Titans, Derrick Henry is always a problem. And with the Chargers historically having problems tackling and against the run, we did a pretty good job against the Dolphins, but they were killing us in the air, So let's see what happens with this Titans team. Tannehill, he threw some picks in that game against the Saints. Let's try to get him off his game. Throw some picks. We'll see if Hopkins plays. He's questionable going in.
Hopkins is always questionable, so I don't doubt he's not going to play.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like you said, we definitely have to pass more. Let's get Herbert in a rhythm. Let's spread it out. In prior seasons, Herbert likes to spread the ball around. And week 1, it was the Keenan Allen show in the air, pretty much. We need to get other guys involved. Let's see Joshua Palmer. Let's get Quentin Johnston some yards after the catch. Just let him go and see what he can do.
Go ahead.
And this defense definitely has to step up. I mean, we cannot play like we did against the Dolphins, and if we do, I think you're right. A lot of people will be calling for Staley's head. If the defense lets us down again, and if we lose this game, 0-2, that's a terrible start. You don't want to see that. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think there were a lot of not a lot, but a good amount of wide receiver screens that we saw week one, and that was to Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, but not to Quentin Johnston. So I think you're right. Let him show his explosiveness and just short passes. Let's see what he's got. Um, and I feel like when Mike Williams went down, Herbert just had to rely on Keenan Allen. He hasn't had much time with Quentin Johnston and Joshua Palmer. Last year he played well. It's just the chemistry between Herbert and Keenan Allen is stronger, which is expected. So I think he just relied on him more. But they didn't throw much, so they're gonna have to this week. And yeah, the Chargers did better, against a run. But Teron Armstead was out, so the Titans have a healthy O line, and is Derrick Henry after all? You're going to need not one but two guys to take him down at times, and I hope Eric Kendricks is ready for that. We need him to show up. I think Kenneth Murray, he has to show something. I know a lot of fans are disappointed in him and want him traded or even cut. But what are your thoughts on Kenneth Murray? Do you think he should be cut? Do you think he should be, given a chance until the end of the season?
I think a lot of fans feel about him like they do Staley. It's a lot of frustration. Like he needs to really turn it around fast. Um, it's crazy because he has the physical talent. He's got the tools, everything he needs. It's just for some reason it's the mental aspect of the game. Just being able to see plays, know where to go, and you'd think you could teach that. You'd think you'd be able to pick that up, but it hasn't come yet. So I don't know, man. It's like a game-to-game basis. If he doesn't turn it around soon, maybe you do cut him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was a video yesterday. It showed the Titans during practice, like basically targeting Kenneth Murray. That's their game plan, to target Kenneth Murray. So if that doesn't wake him up and encourages him to play better, I don't know what will. He's young, but the problem is that this is a win now team. I know Herbert's young, I get it, but the rest, like Keenan Allen, he's in his 30s. Mike Williams is nearing his 30s. I know it's hard to believe, but he is. Eckler's nearing his 30s. So this is a win now team. Khalil Mack isn't getting any younger. And we might not even have Joey Bosa. I don't know. He has a hamstring injury, supposedly. And if he misses time, I think Thule will get that opportunity to prove himself. And truly, I think if Bosa does miss time and Thule steps up and produces, he's young. He has a lot of energy. And if he proves to be the guy that we think Bosa was going to be, I don't think Bosa will be on the team for much longer. And, like you said, Bosa has not produced much. We've held out hope for him. We've talked about him like he's a star. It just hasn't happened. So if Thule comes in and says, this is my time to shine and takes over, I don't know if Bosa will be with the team for much longer.
I agree. And, last week against the Dolphins, Thule already had a highlight play where he had a really nice tackle for a loss. Let's give him more time, see what he can do. Even if Bosa's healthy and he's not producing, put Thule out there and see.
Yeah. I mean, they've used Bosa at times as a defensive tackle, when Melvin Ingram was with us. They put them on the same side. I think they've done that sometimes with Khalil Mack as well. I didn't see any on Sunday. I don't know if they did. I didn't see any, which was surprising. Especially like against an O-line that's hurt, like Teron Armstead. You should have stacked up the D-line and, blitz them a couple times. I mean, the Dolphins did it at the very end and it worked. But you have nothing to lose at that point because they're just slinging it out to Tua and Waddle. I'm sorry, to Tyreek and Waddle, regardless whether you're blitzing or not. So blitz and see what might happen.
Yeah.
It was just a horrible game plan, I think, and it's got to change. There's no two ways about it. It has to change. They have to learn from it. And I saw people like commenting on a post of mine saying we faced DeAndre Hopkins and then Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, and then CeeDee Lamb. Those are the wide receiver ones that we're facing in the coming weeks. And they're saying they're not as fast as Tyreek. That doesn't matter much if you're not going to be able to guard them man to man. DeAndre Hopkins is 6'1", for example, and J.C. Jackson's 5'10". So that's a mismatch in and of itself. And Devontae Adams, he's, in my opinion, the best route runner in the league. And I think he's, very close with Keenan Allen in that aspect. But he can burn a DB, doesn't matter who it is. And Justin Jefferson, he's, in many people's eyes, he's the best wide receiver in the league. So there is cause for concern. I mean, yes, they're not Tyreek Hill, but those are some elite wide receivers. And Hopkins is aging, but again, he has the height advantage. It's just Ryan Tannehill, right? What state of mind is he going to be in? So I think if the defense pressures Tannehill early, it will throw him off his game. But at the same time, they can't get too complacent and focus on Tannehill because there's Derrick Henry. So it's like this happy medium that they have to play and kind of control Derrick Henry, slow him down, and then make Tannehill beat you. And I think that's what the Saints. I didn't watch the Saints game, but I think that's what they did. They made Tannehill throw the ball because Henry had, I believe he had 2 catches, 56 yards or something, which is huge for Derrick Henry because he's not a pass catcher.
Yeah.
But they're gonna rely on Henry no matter what. But I think anyone having seen the game from the Chargers last week, they're gonna want to go to their receivers, right? Because the way I look at it is, yeah, we're saying that Olave, Thomas, and Shaheed burned the Titans D, but you can say the same thing about Waddle and Hill burning our defense. So in Tennessee's mindset, they're like, okay, if they contain Henry, we can just sling the ball because they struggled against Miami. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think I'm not going to say it's a make or break this game because we've had teams that go 0-2 and make the playoffs. We've had teams go 4-0 and miss the playoffs. So I'm not going to say it's a make or break. But I will say if they lose Sunday, the Chargers fans are going to lose their minds. And Staley is going to be on the hot seat no matter what. Joey Bosa, if he plays, and doesn't perform, I think he's gone. One way or the other, either now or in the future, he's gone. And if, again, on the flip side with Bosa, if Thule plays incredibly well, I think Bosa's gone. So, might as well get something for Bosa now before his value just, it's you get nothing in return for Bosa at that point, in a couple of years, let's say. So
That's true. And I will say about Miami, Tua got the ball out really, really quick. And it was a totally different performance than last year, whether part of that was the defense we were playing, but Tua had an incredible game. Just night and day from last year. And it'll be interesting to see with the Titans because we dominated them too last year. So what kind of performance do we put up this time?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we both had a lot of faith in this team last week, and I think we both do still. It's just we want to see more from this team. We want to see, Justin Herbert take command, and I mean, it's not out of the ordinary for a Kellen Moore offense to run with 2 running backs. And that's kind of what I was saying last week was I don't know about Austin Eckler's fantasy value because, Joshua Kelly's in the mix.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Eckler had a good amount of points PPR-wise I think it was like 26 or something, and then Kelly had 15. So it reminds me of Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, and the way Kellen Moore used those two. So it might be like Eckler in a Pollard role, and then Kelly in a Zeke role. Except I would assume that Kelly would get the red zone touches, but that remains to be seen because Eckler is shown to be effective in the red zone. So it'll be interesting to see once Eckler comes back from his injury, what it's going to look like. But if Eckler misses that game in week 2, I don't know. I would start Kelly just because of the upside. He'll have, let's say, 15 to 20 touches. He had 15 carries, I believe, week 1, plus a touchdown. So that was big. Will he be able to repeat that on the road and against that Titans D? I don't know. Because, again, Jamal Williams struggled. So I don't know if he'll be able to repeat that. And we also signed Jared Patterson yesterday to the practice squad. And I assume Patterson's going to be used as the receiving back. I'm not sure if you remember Jared Patterson. He was the running back 3 for the Washington Commanders behind Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. He wasn't used much. And I think it was this preseason he had a 15-yard receiving touchdown. So it's not a bad signing. It's just he hasn't seen the field much. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him. But it also signals that Eckler could be out for 1 week, 2 weeks. We don't know. And how does Kelly, perform? Because if Kelly, let's say, goes off, then next year you're looking at Eckler and Kelly both under. Well, actually,
no,
you're gonna have to re-sign both regardless in the offseason. This is a contract year for both of them. So Kelly wants to prove that he's got what it takes to be the running back 1, and if he shows that, especially against a defense like Tennessee, then the Chargers might say, okay, Kelly's younger. We might sign him and unfortunately let Eckler walk because he wants more money. So it'll be interesting to see how Kelly does. But as far as week 2, I would start him just because he's going to get a lot of touches, but I wouldn't expect a huge performance from him like we did in week 1.
Yeah. I think if you have him in fantasy, you got to roll with them because the potential is there for a big performance. But like you said, that Titans D is tough. But if Eckler's out, Kelly's definitely going to be the lead back. My question is, are they going to activate Spiller? And is Spiller going to get involved? Moore likes to utilize 2 backs. Is it going to be, Kelly and Spiller, or is it going to be Dotson as the second guy?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were asking, and I had one guy comment on my tweet saying, what about Spiller and Dotson? And I don't know, honestly, because I feel like Dotson should be given an opportunity. I think Spiller, they know what he can do because they've seen him in training camp these couple of past years. He seems like he's a raw talent still. So I think that's why Spiller isn't being the RB3 even. He's the RB4. He's inactive, week 1. Like you said, I think Jared Patterson at this point will be the RB2, surprisingly. Because otherwise, why would you sign him to the practice squad? You already have 2 other running backs. So it makes me wonder, are you going to use Patterson immediately?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. And then the game plan, are we going to run like we did that first week so many times? I'd really like to get Herbert more involved because he did seem a little off. And, part of that, I think, is he was handing the ball off so many times. It's hard to get in a rhythm,
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if this Titans defense does hold up against the run, we're going to need to pass it. And yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, if Derek Carr can throw over 300 yards against that defense, I think Justin Herbert can too, if not more. You're going to have to rely on the passing game in week 2 because I know it's a small, it's a small sample. It was one game, I get it, but that's all that's been played. So that's all we can take from the season so far from the Titans. It's just, Jamal Williams had a great year with the Detroit Lions, and then he was RB1 here. He got all the carries and couldn't do much. So that makes me wonder, can Kelly get a rhythm going? Do you have to rely on the passing game? Are you going to use Kelly as a pass catcher, or are you going to use someone else, Dotson or, Spiller, possibly Patterson? But it makes me wonder, why sign Patterson if you already have two other running backs? And it could be because, um, Dotson and Spiller are more running backs and not passing backs. And it could be if Eckler wasn't hurt and Kelly was, they would have used one or the other, Dotson or Spiller. But because it's Eckler and he's a pass catcher, then, that's why I feel like Patterson is going to get some run because, why would you sign him otherwise? So I'm not sure if they activated him yet. I know he's on the practice squad, but they probably will tomorrow if he's going to play. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, what from a fantasy perspective, what else are you looking at for this Chargers team?
Oh man, it's always Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen. Those are the three guys I always have, and I have less of Eckler this year than last year, but Keenan Allen and Herbert I have everywhere. Those are the three main guys. Those are the guys that are going to stay consistent week in, week out. I'm not even sure when the last time Keenan Allen had single digit points in PPR. To be honest with you, I looked the other day and I couldn't find until like 20, maybe it was 2020, and that was because it got cut short because of an injury. So he's always getting double digit points. I think in terms of week 2, I would expect a big game from Keenan Allen. I would expect a big game from Mike Williams because again, if Derek Carr can have Rashid Shaheed get over 80 yards receiving, I think Justin Herbert can do that with Keenan and Mike. So those are the three guys I always look at. But this week in particular, I look at Keenan, Herbert, and Mike Williams, just because Eckler's hurt. Even if he does play, to what capacity is he going to play? And I know his agent, passed away a couple of days ago, so he might choose to sit this one out. Ankle injury as well, so it's tough for Eckler in all aspects to play week 2, especially against this type of defense. But if he does play, of course, start him. I think he produces no matter what, no matter who they verse, he will produce. But yeah, those are my three guys this week.
Yeah, if Eck doesn't play, are you playing Joshua Kelly?
So I'm in a league where there's 12 teams. I have Eckler and Aaron Jones. It's a dynasty league, so I have Eckler and Aaron Jones, both injured.
Yeah.
But I have Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson as well. So I might just swap those two in, and then I would, in a league like that, I would put in Joshua Kelly. If it's 12 people in the league, I would put in Joshua Kelly. There's another league I'm in where it's just 8 people, and it was my mistake. I just, they didn't want to do, extra quarterback or anything like that, just generic lineup. And there are just not enough roster spots, to start Joshua Kelly. So in a league like that, I would not. But then I'm also in another league where there's 8 people and it's about 5 flex spots and a super flex, so you can put a quarterback in there as well. In a league like that, I would start Kelly. So it just depends on the roster format. If it's an 8 or 10 man, 12 man, definitely I'd start him. Of course, 14, 16, etc. I would start. And if he's somehow on the waivers in your league, definitely pick him up. I used a lot of fab for him this past week because even those who there are some leagues that I don't have Eckler in, but I still want a Charger player. So now is the time. Even if you guys don't have Eckler, now's the time to trade for him as well, because you can trade, let's say, Saquon for Eckler compared to if he was healthy, you'd have to trade Saquon and a receiver, for example, for Eckler. So now's the time to trade for him. And people might be down on him because of the injury, but especially in PPR leagues, I would definitely want Eckler. And if you have Eckler, you definitely need Joshua Kelly because of instances like this. So that's my take on fantasy football.
Yeah, and I think a sleeper at tight end is Donald Parham. You know, he got the touchdown last week. He could be a red zone threat all year, all season long. You know,
Yeah,
we'll just have to see. But you
yeah.
know,
I'll,
I know.
I'll admit, I'll admit, I was in this dynasty league where there's 12 men. I had Donald Parham for maybe the past 2 years, and I dropped him before the season started because I had to pick up a. We have individual defensive players in this league. It's really annoying, but I had to pick one up, and so I didn't want to drop Spiller because RBs are more valuable than tight ends. And then he goes off with a touchdown, and then of course someone picks him up in the league.
Uh,
Yeah, okay, I mean, Parham's a great player because of his height and size. It's just he's always injured.
yeah,
So, and I think no matter what, Everett is going to be the tight end one for this team. But no, in the red zone, I think he's a big threat. It's just when Mike Williams comes back, or he's also there in the red zone because I think when Herbert threw it to Parham, there was no Mike Williams on the field. So when Mike Williams is back, that might be his go-to, right? And not Parham. But it'll open up more room for Parham to get the TD because there'll be less people covering him, and there'll be more attention on Mike Williams. So it's a touchdown or bust type situation for Parham. I don't see much more production um, from him out of that, out of the red zone. But yeah, I mean, if you're in a league with, let's say, two tight ends, or you have, let's say, Travis Kelsey, for example, didn't play last week, then Parham's a great replacement. But just know that he's a touchdown or bust type player. So if he doesn't get a touchdown, he's not going to be of much value. But then again, he's 6'8", and could very well get a touchdown.
yeah,
So
definitely. Uh, yeah. So yeah, just what are your overall thoughts on this matchup? Are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic. I mean, I want to remain optimistic because you just have to. I mean, I get the frustrations. I was very frustrated last week on Sunday. I get it, but had Cameron Dicker had the opportunity to get that field goal, this would have been a completely different conversation. Um, because the Charge as a whole, okay, they played well. The defense that I mean, we spoke about it. It was a horrible performance from the defense in every aspect. Um, the run defense was better, I think, but at the same time, you only had to cover Raheem Mostert. It wasn't a Derrick Henry or a Josh Jacobs or whoever, Tony Pollard, who we're gonna see these guys, in the coming weeks. So that's when the defense will be put to the test. This week, they'll be put to the test, the run defense against Derrick Henry. So we have to see what the run defense can do if they can, continue the success. But I think mainly what people have to wonder is the secondary. Alohi Gilman, um, the DBs. J.C. Jackson, he's got to really make a statement on Sunday. Whether it's covering DeAndre Hopkins or Treylon Burks, whoever, he's got to make a statement. I think Michael Davis, he did an okay job Sunday. He's got to do better though. An okay job isn't going to win you a Super Bowl. So he's got to do better. I think that's one thing we have to watch is the defense, no matter what. And then offensively, if Eckler's out, Justin Herbert needs to take things into his own hands and just be Justin Herbert. Week one he wasn't able to because the run was so good. But week two, like I said, I think the Titans' run defense is much better. But the Titans defense in general is not better than the Dolphins defense. You got guys like Javon Holland, and I think Phillips. He was the one who got the sacks on Herbert at the end. Um, you don't have guys like that on the Titans defense. They're solid, but they're just not as explosive as the Dolphins. So I think Herbert needs to exploit that the DBs. He needs to exploit the secondary, and he can, but he just has to be given the opportunity to. And I think he will in week 2 because as much as we want to see Joshua Kelly repeat the week 1 performance or do better, it's going to be difficult on the road. So yeah, I think this is a Justin Herbert game. I think this is a Mike Williams, Keenan Allen game, and it has to be because you have to at some point just take matters into your own hands and dominate, and that's what Justin Herbert needs to do. I think he's um, shown that he's very quiet, the shy type, but you have to be like the Mahomes type of the Mahomes type of confidence and play. Otherwise, it's just you're not giving yourself the best chance to be the best team in the AFC, for example. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. I think we go out and show it this time. I I did feel good about week 1 too, but but yeah, if the guys aren't motivated after this last week, nothing's gonna do it. So
Yeah.
I I think they come out hard, and we get this win.
Yeah, no, I think Derwin. He's motivated. I think he's hungry to get back out there, and he didn't play his best. We didn't hear much of his name called week 1. I think that'll change week 2. But I'm concerned about Joey Bosa truly because I don't think he cares anymore. That's just the way he's playing. It's just careless plays. The start of the game, the penalty, and then the face mask toward the end. I think it was third quarter. He got the face mask call. And that's a star of ours. So he can't just say screw it and quit because he's replaceable. Everybody on that team is replaceable except for maybe Justin Herbert. Um, you know, Tooley, I think if Bosa misses week 2, whether it's a hamstring injury or whatever it is, if he misses week 2 and Tooley goes out there and gets a couple sacks on Tannehill or gets a couple stops on Derrick Henry, this is going to be a different conversation we're having next week because I think the conversation shifts from does Bosa care to Bosa's out of here, you know. But I think Tooley is going to be given that opportunity, and that's a huge opportunity for him on Sunday if Bosa misses the game. Because if he doesn't miss, then obviously he's going to be the starter. But if he does miss, then it's all Tooley. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a motivation thing with Bosa or if he's just lost a step. I don't know. He's getting to that age, and with the injuries racking up, you just don't know. And maybe it was just a bad game. We always put so much into a game, and it was the first game. Let's see. Week 2 is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think injuries, of course, catch up to everybody, and I think it's caught up to Bosa. But after that loss against Jacksonville, the way he played and the way he acted, throwing that helmet on the ground and all of that stuff, I don't think fans have forgotten that. And then this disappointing performance week 1. So that's why I'm saying this is Tooley's opportunity if Bosa misses. I'm rooting for Bosa. I still want him to dominate. It's just not happening. So hopefully it happens sometime soon because we need it. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you got to expect Derrick Henry to get about 20 touches, whether it's carries or targets, whatever the case might be. He, in my eyes, is the RB1, wide receiver 1, whatever you want to call it. He's the offense.
Yeah.
So no matter what, no matter how much they try to slow him down, they're going to try and involve Henry as much as possible. And then what I'm looking forward to is, seeing Derwin James kind of try to slow down Derrick Henry. I think Eric Kendricks needs to do the same. But it'll be interesting if it's a one-on-one type of situation where Henry catches or he's running and Derwin's right in front of him. What happens? Because we've seen Derwin take down Travis Kelce, and that's not easy to do. And when I say take down, I mean he just carried him and slammed him on the ground.
Yeah.
That is not easy. So
No.
it'll be interesting to see, how does he slow down Derrick Henry, and how does Eric Kendricks slow him down? And as much as we criticize Kenneth Murray, deservedly so, this is his time to prove that we were all wrong. This is his time. I mean, we're talking about Derrick Henry, but also Tajay Spears, who's the backup running back for the Titans. He's going to see a lot of pass catching duty. He's explosive. I've seen a couple of highlights of his. He's explosive. He's physical. I like Derrick Henry. So it's not going to be easy. I'll tell you that. It's not going to be easy. It's just, I think when you look at, our offense compared to the Titans offense, it's, like we're tier 1, let's say they're tier 3. So that's why I have hope that we're going to win this week. Justin Herbert is miles above Ryan Tannehill. Yeah. And he has to show that Sunday. Because if he doesn't, then I think it's going to be very, very disappointing. And, we play in Minnesota week 3. So it's a tough schedule. This is not an easy schedule. And some people, had Chargers winning week 1. Some didn't. But I think a lot more had them winning week 2 than not. So this should be a win no matter what. And that's just, the way I look at it.
Definitely. Isn't Kendricks questionable as well? I mean,
he has a hamstring injury. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll make things tougher on our defense if he's out.
Yeah. Well, now, I'm not sure about today's injury report. Sometimes they just do that and just rest on Wednesday. Like I know Hopkins. I think Hopkins always rests on Wednesdays.
Okay.
So they come out with an injury, even if it's nothing severe, they might just list it as that. And that could be Bosa's case as well. Or it could be that, he just is, zoning out and doesn't care. I don't know. But, one way or the other, Bosa has to decide whether he's going to be with the team or he's just going to tune out. Because if he's going to tune out, then they got to trade him. And look, to the future and look at Thule and have him be the Bosa that we've, seen all these years. There was also Melvin Ingram, who's a free agent. Will the Chargers sign him? I'm not sure. I don't know if Melvin Ingram will want to come back, but I think it could make sense. If Bosa is traded, let's say we sign Melvin Ingram to kind of mentor Thule, or they just give the reins to Thule right now, and he does what he does. It's just, yeah, it's a weird, just a weird situation all around with Bosa. And I don't know where his head is at right now. Does he want to go play with his brother? Is he, because he doesn't live in LA. I know that. I mean, he lives in Fort Lauderdale during the off season. So he doesn't really have much here. His parents live in Florida, and he doesn't have much here. So I don't know if that's what might be triggering this or not, but it's weird. We'll see in the coming weeks what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if that's the case, he's looking for a contract somewhere, and other teams are going to be watching us play too. So
yeah,
he's only going to be losing himself money if
right.
But yeah, well,
right. That's why I think it's better to trade him. If he's going to continue like this, it's better to trade him and get something for him instead of nothing. But at this point, I don't even know what his value is. It's just he used to be the most dominant. Now it's in question. So hopefully he hears this criticism, and not just from us, but from everywhere. I mean, everyone has been criticizing Bosa, and we just want him to do better. It's not that he's not good. We just need more effort from him.
Yeah.
And hopefully we see that in week 2, or whenever he plays, week 3, whatever the case might be.
All right, guys. Well, if you haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe. Yeah,
And on Sunday we'll be doing the Twitter Spaces, so I'll put out a reminder on Sunday morning. So join that, and we'll discuss the week 2 Chargers Titans recap.
all right. And if you haven't yet, check out our interview with Sean Merriman. Great interview. So yeah, check that out if you haven't. All right.
All right. See
So
you guys next week.
see you, Levon.